Hey, Nathan here. This is just going to be a little quick video, maybe 10 minutes or so. Just something fun I wanted to do. So what I'm going to do for this video is there's a tier maker, tier ranking website, and I'm going to rank all the Trails Legend of Heroes games that I've played, currently playing, or haven't played yet. I'm just going to go ahead and rank those on this website, and I'll have a brief few sentences or so on each game. So there's going to be little minor, very minor spoilers. I'll try not to go into anything too deep on each one of these games because I am currently playing through them on my YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me change to the display capture. Okay. And I don't think the titles will impact the camera. So where I have it set, I think that's fine. Okay, I'm going to go in order to the games that I've played and also games that I have watched synopsis on. And then there's a couple games here that I don't know. I'll just put those as I haven't played yet. And I'm currently playing through two other games, so I'll put those in the currently playing. Now, my typical ratings, even though the best game in the world could have issues or gripes or nitpicks, things that you can say about it. So even if I play something on SSS, there's still a couple things maybe that I could say, yeah, I wish they did that better, or I wish they didn't have that in the game, or I wish they didn't do that type of thing. So even though I consider a game a 10, I could still say, yeah, they could do this, couldn't do that. So that's my typical rating on games and things. I don't think there's ever a truly flawless game. Even a 10 out of 10, there's still going to be areas of improvement on any game. For example, one of my favorite games of all time that I would definitely give a 10 out of 10 without question is Metal Gear Solid, but some of the dialogue sometimes just irritates me. Like when a character's saying something and then Snake repeats it. It doesn't happen once, it doesn't happen 5 times, it happens a lot to the point where it's like nails on chalkboard. Underground storage facility. Colonel's niece. Just repeating the last thing they say just in a question. That just gets on my nerves. Okay, so let's get started. The first game that I played was Trails in the Sky, first chapter. Now I'm gonna put that in B, and there's no bad game. I love all these games. So if I give it a B, and B is not bad, but still at the bottom of the list. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm currently playing through it on my YouTube channel, but I'm gonna give it a B. It's the intro to the series. It's a very, 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 very slow game, but all the what is Liberal, what is Erebonia, what is Zumeria, what are Ormits, what is Sepith, what is Septum, all these locations and terminologies and characters, Estelle, Joshua, Sherazard, many others, Agate, all these characters, all these locations, all these terminologies. They're the foundation and building block that the game bases off of to go to not just Trails in the Sky, but Trails of Cold Steel and Trails, the Crossbell duology, the Trails from Zero or Trails to Azure. Those two games too. All that stuff builds on this world building that's based on the first chapter. So it's a very slow game. The combat, the first out of this series. No Legend of Heroes has previous games, but out of this series, it's the first out of that. So the combat is a little not as good as the later games, just due to the evolution of things. So it's a little boring combat, especially after playing through the later games. Going back to it, it's even though I'm on New Game Plus, the combat is a little bit lackluster on that. It's still great for a first playthrough, but after you play the other ones, it's you kind of appreciate the quality of life enhancements and things on later games. So I'm gonna give this a B. The finale is the biggest, one of the biggest cliffhangers I've experienced in the series, except for a game we'll get to later on. That is a bigger cliffhanger, but this one really got me to the point where I bought the second chapter about midway or 3/4 of the way through, because I knew I was going to play it. But I immediately just, it was 10 o'clock at night. I finished this one. I just immediately started the second one because it hooked me at that last hour or so. That's pretty much it for this. I do think it's a necessary, a slow but necessary game to learn the terminology and characters and locations. So that's why I put it down there, just the slowness of it. Next one is SC, and I'll put that in. I'd say that one is. It's between S and SSS. There's no double S here, but I'm gonna go with S here because the combat did improve. 1 second here. The combat did improve, but it isn't as good as a later game that I'll put in triple S here. It built off the cliffhanger finale, so I immediately jumped into SC, and the SC is where the story goes into high gears and just nonstop. It definitely pays off for the slowness of first chapter. So second chapter is definitely a hard hitting. You still learn a lot in this game, but it's a lot more action and deeper story, not just go into this town, doing these quests, and sprinkle of story here. It's pretty much purely dedicated on the story. There is still going from town to town and things like that, but it's more involved than the first chapter was. The third, I'm currently playing through that. I stopped a little bit into it because I wanted to jump into the newer games. I'm going to put that in currently playing. I don't have a definitive ranking to it yet. This one is more of a dungeon crawler, so pretty much combat all the time. More of a background story. You go through doors and you fight some things, and you get a cutscene and things like that on story related topics. So it's purely a dungeon crawler and doors that you can or cannot. It's optional. Go through to get some story elements. So I would probably put it in B tier if I had to make a spot for it right now. I haven't played through it all, so that could change. But right now, just like the first chapter, it's kind of necessary for the character building and get that additional context in the stories. But just everything else, I just wish it wasn't like a truly dungeon crawler and that type of thing. I wish the third one kind of had more involvement with the main story than it did from the time that I spent on it. It could change, and like I said, I could maybe make it A or S or that kind of thing. So right now, I'd put it as a B if I had to. All right, Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure. I haven't played yet. Those are the ones I've watched synopsis of, so I got kind of the bare bones, high level overview of the story and the characters. So I haven't played it yet because it wasn't officially localized. You had to kind of mod it and get the Japanese version and get the Geofront. I think it was Geofront that you had to kind of install like the English mod and things like that. So it wasn't fully released. There is plans to get it released, I think, from Zeroes this year. and to Azure is next year on Steam. So I will be playing through those officially when I get them, but I got a high level overview of the story and that kind of thing. All right, Trails of Cold Steel. Now this one, it's similar to Trails in the Sky, but I'm going to put it as A because it is a modernized, newer, it has quality of life, and it has a lot of enhancements and things like that. There is voice acting, so not 100%. There's still stuff that you need to read, and when I do it on YouTube, I'll speak to some of it. But the majority of the main conversations and main story and things like that are voice acted, which is very good. I do everything English voice acting. I don't like um, Japanese voice acting. I don't want to. I know a lot of people like to prefer the Japanese voice acting and things, sub versus dubs and those kind of things. That's diving more into anime, but this is kind of a anime game in that regard. So I prefer everything in English, and while it's not perfect, I can forgive some random dialogue, that kind of thing from time to time. I can just overlook that. It's not a big problem with me. I'd rather hear it and process it in my native language than having to just read it and forget something that I don't really notice in my peripheral vision, that kind of thing. So all those voice acting games I preferred on English, and that's what I'll be recording on when I get to it in my playthrough. But yeah, years of from the developer's perspective, years of the games and technology improvements, enhancements, just evolution of the combat, the the battle style and things like that. That's why I give it a higher ranking than Trails in the Sky. It's just a lot better modernized RPG in that regard. It's still very slow, just like Trails in the Sky first chapter. A lot to learn, a lot of new characters. But yeah, it's just I love that game. Definitely more than the first chapter. While I love that, and that's what got me started in this series, this one just really I have a soft spot for the kind of the starting point, in that kind of sense. Similar to between first chapter and second chapter, Trails of Cold Steel 2, that I'm gonna put in the SSS tier. That one I had a little bit bigger between Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2 was a little bit bigger of a cliffhanger, but still the same thing. I had to jump into it right away, even though it was. I think this one was actually at midnight when I finished the first one, and I just had to jump into the second one for a couple of hours or so. Yeah, I just had to. That cliffhanger just got me, and I had to jump on immediately. And I love the main conflict that started from the cliffhanger of the first one. That's kind of the main thread of the second game, and I just like that aspect of the story. So some improvements to the combat, but it was kind of based on the same style of Cold Steel 1, so there was a lot of similarities, but there were a little bit of differences going from game to game. So I appreciate that too. It's definitely one of my favorites, and I'm excited to get back to it or replaying it. All right, 3. I'm going to give that a little bit higher than 1. I'm going to put that as S. Now, 3 is the same. There's a typical process here of 1 is setup, 2 is fire on all cylinders for the story. The setup finally is paying off. Let's go full speed. Then 1, 2, 1, 2. So 3 is back to that Trails of Cold Steel 1 and Trails in the Sky first chapter type of slowness. We got more characters. Reading has a different title now. Not going to go into, try not to spoil too much, even though you'll only be spoiled for like 5 minutes of the game, but still, Reading has a different title. The main character has a different title. That really is interesting, and to see it from a different point of view than what we saw in the first game, we see the kind of the opposite, even though it's a little bit different than what we dealt with on the first game. It's just nice seeing that flip of responsibilities and titles and things like that. So I'd go with an S. It's built off a new engine. It looks great. I think it looks great. About halfway through, I didn't realize though I was experiencing a graphical glitch, and I play all this on computer, by the way. So I was experiencing a graphical glitch with ambient occlusion. So if you play 3 and 4, all right, I just had to pause. I had a notification come through on Windows 10, so I just turned on focus. Okay, so I was explaining the graphical glitch that I was experiencing in Trails of Cold Steel 3. So if you play it on PC, be sure to check the ambient occlusion settings and shadows and things like that, because everybody, including the female characters and women characters, they all appear to have mustaches. It wasn't a big deterrence because I played about half the game and I said, "All right, I'm done looking at this weird graphical glitch. I'm gonna see about what I can do to change it." So I played about half the game with it on, so it wasn't a major issue. But still, if you see that little shadow on their mouth area that looks like everybody has a mustache, just be sure to check your graphical settings because it is a little glitch there. But still, I love the new graphical enhancements, new engine, new battle processes, and battle loop changes and things like that, which is nice. Combat enhancements. So even though it's back to the same of like the Trails of Cold Steel 1, Trails in the Sky 1, first chapter, it is still back to that basics, slowness, learning new characters, and learning about other things too. It is a little bit better. We do get a little bit more of the main story involvement on this, so that's why I rank it a little bit higher. And obviously, as the combat and the graphical, and just as the engine improves, the game improves. It's like a uplift for every improvement. So that's why I rank it higher on that. Trails of Cold Steel 4, I'm currently playing that. But already, within the first hour, all these games, from Trails in the Sky, first chapter, that has a giant payoff even in the first hour, 2 hours. It's just, I was just smiling the whole time, even though there was a major cliffhanger. This the biggest cliffhanger of Trails of Cold Steel 3. I haven't gotten to the later games yet, so there might be bigger cliffhangers for those that have played more. But from my perspective, it was the biggest cliffhanger. Just everything, the whole thing's going crazy. It's like the whole world's going crazy. So when 4 started, even though this horrible, crazy thing was going on that you shouldn't be smiling about, the stuff that you experienced from first chapter all the way up to here pays off, and it just I had a giant smile on my face in the first 2 hours. Even with everything else going on story wise, it was just so nice. Major payoff, and getting to play my favorite character in the entire series again was a very cool thing. So I'm currently playing that. I would definitely put it. I haven't gotten too far into the main stories, so I'd probably put it on S. Obviously, that might change to SSS when I finish it, but right now I'd put it as S. These 3, I think this is the next one, Trails from Reverie. I might be mistaking the second word there, but it should be Reverie, I think. I haven't played it yet because it's not localized yet. and these other two, I don't even know what that one is. And I'm not sure what these ones are too. If you played those two that I don't know, let me know what those two are. I can't really, I don't read Japanese, so I obviously can't read the title of it. So yeah, just let me know what those two are, and if they're localized. I haven't seen them on PC. Maybe I was looking at the wrong title in Steam, but yeah, if they're on Steam or localized, let me know. Or if they're planning to be localized, let me know. I'd love to learn more about those two games, these two, this one and that one. And then this one I know is going to be localized soon. As soon as I think next year or at the end of this year. So yeah, that's basically it. For somebody that really, I have a hard time getting into games that are not just sandbox style, like Minecraft, Terraria, or kind of that same sandbox style, but I really liked factory games too, Factorio and Satisfactory. I really haven't played many games lately other than those, because it's just so difficult for me to get into games. Speaking of that, a game I really enjoy is Grand Theft Auto 5. I love that game, but I played it. I started playing it 6 times now. I've never beaten it. Start playing it, and I just lose interest halfway through. Move on to a different game and go from there. So it's very difficult for a game to get me and keep me for a major story driven game in that regard. So for this, a series that has got me from Trails in the Sky first chapter and have kept me to complete Trails in the Sky first chapter, to not only do that, but to go to the next one. To go to the next one. And 3's on the back plate, but I do plan on finishing that. I just wanted to get onto the more modern games. So going to the next one, Trails of Cold Steel 3, or 1. Going to the next one, 2. Next one, 3. Next one, 4, which I'm currently playing. It's just a very different style of game that I've really enjoyed. I've never been this hooked on story, the story of a game, and just continuing on like I've done with this series. And that's partly why I wanted to do my YouTube series, is to replay these, and why not record them when I replay them, you know? And hopefully people get some enjoyment out of it. Alright, so that's it for this video. Wanted to make a quick video. Looks like it ran more than my 10-minute estimate, but I'm gonna try to cut out that line where I had a notification. But if I don't, it was just a notification for Dragon Den Productions, which I've been helping out. If you want to get an update, look at Trails in the Sky first chapter part 0. That's where I give just a update on what I've been doing the last couple years or so. What's the status of my tutorials and things like that. What's the status of my game project. So just check out that. I just do a very basic, quick couple minutes, few minutes here and there discussing that, and then I get into actually doing a quick review of the game as I get into it. Oh, I forgot to mention a little cut here in the video. I forgot to mention, I did mention this if you haven't seen my part 0 for Trails in the Sky first chapter. But like I said, I'm going to plan to play all these and record all these and upload these, just to get some movement on my YouTube channel and things like that. I know some people, I wouldn't say a lot, because I know some people are, so I know some people aren't that interested in the gameplay series, but just want my tutorials. But I unfortunately have limited time where I can't do those right now. After my game project goes into beta, I will get back to those. I definitely promise. And there's some nice tutorials coming up that I have on the plate. I still have my DirectX series I want to do. I will get into 3D development, 3D game development series and things like that. And I want to look at doing kind of a basic Unity or not Unity, on Unreal Engine type stuff. So I am going to look at doing a lot more 3D stuff in the future, but I want my game project to get into the beta state first. So until that happens, I'm just going to do some gameplay videos here and there. I might make a one-off tutorial here and there too, but just my time commitments. You know, for my entertainment, I want to replay these games, and why not record them too and just upload those? Doesn't take any time. There might be a few cuts here and there, but it won't take much time other than putting it in the video editor, making sure the audio levels are good, and export for about 2 hours. So, just wanted to say that. So I plan to play every one of these games on the list eventually, even though some games won't really coming out until next year. So I'll eventually get to those. So at that point, I will be doing giveaways for each one of these games. Probably 2 copies for each one of these games. But stay tuned for announcements on that. Yeah, that's pretty much the addition that I wanted to add to this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.